within the state with plans to distribute power generated by the plant to production centers in the state. To ensure regular supply of fertilizer to farmers for more productive agribusiness, the Edo Fertilizer and Chemical Company has been revamped. The 60,000 metric ton capacity plant was revived through a public-private venture about 14 years after it was abandoned. The state is currently promoting community-based on-farm and off-farm management along key agricultural value chains like maize, cassava, oil palm, soybeans, and rice. The Agripreneur program has over 1,880 farmers on over 5,800 hectares of land. The state is cultivating rice in Igoriaki, Ogwomo, Warake, Agenebode and Ilushi, and cultivating maize at Usugbenu and Sobe, and soybeans at Ekwoma. 150 hectares of land is earmarked for oil palm production across 4 local government areas, involving oil palm estate investors, and also community smallholder farmers. The government believes that through agriculture, we can improve the standard of living and create the much needed wealth in communities.
Because this water can put the soil very nice, and if you plant something like this, it is not grown up. See many corn and everything where cassava, everything where people plant for here now. Now so everybody they enjoy that. But we know the same money, we know the same money where they take help us, where they help us. Try to load there and look at that plant, no help us. So we can't surprise this year now, this thing don't happen now. The thing called the fast for our hand. This sound now here, the Russians they continue this one and Caterpillar work for all these places for us. So all these places now, we can't get happiness and they thank God say, may God bless these people where they say they want to help the poor farmer for this time around.
Well, I guess I'll miss having stimulating conversation with Mr. Osarobo, because soon we will be moving to our own home. Have you heard of Emoton Gardens? It's a state government-backed 1,800 unit housing project, providing affordable housing for its citizens. It features 2 and 3 bedroom flats, villas, bungalows, and terrace homes. And the best part is that we can pay in installments. It is now common for residents to wake up and see the sight of graders and tractors working on either major roads or streets in Edo State. Substantial road projects have been completed across the 18 local government councils in the state. Others are in progress. Many more have been awarded, and this has also improved road transportation in some areas and also encouraged transportation network companies like Uber and Bolt Taxify to launch businesses in Edo State. This has provided competitive pricing for transportation and created jobs within the state.
Our keke safe, they're very safe because we know the 2 they repair keke like before. Before, if you ride keke 3 days, 4 days, you must visit mechanic. You must go see mechanic. But now, you can ride 1 more, nothing they happen.
Like my street now, where I do now, I don't expect say nobody will touch this area before. But I'm surprised to see. That's why the name they give our governor, we can see. In fact, he qualified.
Making drinking water available to every citizen is one of government's priority. The rehabilitation of Ugboha Water Scheme to provide potable water to over 500,000 industrial and domestic consumers in Edo Central is underway. Other water projects are ongoing at Igbobazua and Udo in Ovia Southwest local government area and Ofunwegbe in Ovia Northeast and 4 other local government areas in Edo State. Providing quality and affordable healthcare at the grassroots is also one of the paramount objectives of the Gordon Obaseki-led government. Towards achieving this objective, the government is remodeling 200 primary health centers and over 500 health workers have been trained under the Edo Health Improvement Program so far. The Edo Specialist Hospital has been renovated and equipped and already in operations. Remember my kid brother? That used to be the evidence of the ruined educational system. All that has changed. Through the Edo Best program, the state has pioneered modern teaching techniques in our basic education system, which is technology-driven. This has restored confidence in public school system and also seen an increase in pupils' attendance and enrollment in public schools.
And today, all the teachers are digital. We are teaching with happiness, we are teaching with joy. We have the facility to teach. Before this time, we cannot even operate our phones. After the teaching, we cannot operate our phones, we can even teach with computers.
I'm very happy because I've never seen this type of initiative in Edo State. This is first of its type since history. So we are happy, we are grateful to our governor.
Remodeling and re-equipping of the Government Science and Technical College is ongoing. The college is part of efforts to reposition technical and vocational education and training And just recently, Governor Obaseki performed the groundbreaking ceremony of the new College of Agriculture and Natural Resources in Edo. The governor believes that as we diversify our economy through agricultural development, well-equipped agricultural institutions must be established to train the needed manpower. No wonder Governor Godwin Obaseki emerged as the Nigerian Union of Teachers' best performing governor for 2019. Emphasis on sport development is also an area that the state government has taken very serious. Our beloved Bendel Insurance got promoted after 11 years to the top flight Nigerian Professional Football League. The Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium is nearing completion, with all facilities being given a facelift after neglect for years. And the state will be hosting the 2020 National Sports Festival. This will provide tourism and economic opportunities for the state, in addition to the social and cultural benefits. Sadly, we have lost brothers and sisters who, in search of a better living, decided to go abroad illegally and in the process fall victims of human traffickers who promised them a better future. Facing death, sickness, molestation and torture, many of them were stuck in Libya, which became a special type of hell, where no one can hear them cry, and to the outside world, they no longer exist. Luckily for some, over the past 2 years, the International Organization of Migration has voluntarily repatriated over 12,000 Nigerians who were trapped in and outside prisons across Libya. The Edo State Task Force Against Human Trafficking has been at the airport every single time a plane from Libya has brought back our people, welcoming them and letting them know that the government has plans for them. These returnees are rehabilitated and reintegrated into the society through the support program for returnees. They are trained in different vocational skills and paid monthly stipends for 3 months. So far, over 6,000 Edo indigents have benefited from this program. The Edo State government is responsible for delivering what is arguably the most effective skill development and job creation program in Nigeria. The multi-award-winning program was born as a result of the commitment of Mr. Godwin Obaseki to create 200,000 jobs in Edo State within 4 years. This commitment is evident by the signing into law of the Edo State Skill Development Agency, popularly called Edo Jobs. Edo Jobs places high priority on promoting entrepreneurship through its skill acquisition and enterprise development programs, startup incubation, business acceleration, and many more. This has led to the development of business hubs such as Edo Innovate, Edo Production Center, and Edo Foods and Agri Cluster. In addition, Edo Job facilitates train to hire and provide job matching programs with employers who run labor-intensive processes. With this, the agency provides training for employment seekers who then fit into this company's production and distribution chains. Over 150 people, young and old, have benefited from the activities of Edo Jobs within the state. I could go on and on, but now I'm employed. So let me get back to work before my boss starts looking for me. I'm just kidding. I'm my own boss. Thanks to the entrepreneurship development programs of this government, there are many more like me waiting to benefit from this kind of opportunities. Let's ensure it happens for them. You ask me how? 2020 is close. Oh, one more thing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome my governor, your governor, our governor, the well-read seasoned technocrat, the digital governor, the man who does more and talks less, famously dubbed the wait and see governor, Godwin Nogegase Obaseki, governor of Edo State.
Thank you. Please be seated. Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Edo State, the Right Honorable Comrade Philip Shaibu and his very amiable wife, Miriam Shaibu, the Speaker, Edo State House of Assembly, our very own Right Honorable Frank Okiye, other members of the State Executive Council, members of the Edo State House of Assembly, Your Excellency, the former governor of Edo State and the former national chairman of our great party, the All Progressive Congress, Chief J.E.K. Odigye Oyegu. other members of the Edo State APC Exco, top government functionaries, chairman and members of the local organizing committee of this event of Alaghodaro 2019, most distinguished sponsors. Just looking at the array of sponsors who've made this possible, I want to say thank you very much. Captains of industry who have made it here this morning, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us. Our distinguished panelists, I see a lot of our friends and brothers and colleagues from industry who most of you flew in this morning. I want to thank you and welcome you. His Royal Majesty, the Omonoba Nedo Ukwa Kolokolo, Oba Ewai II Ogidigan, the Oba of Benin, who is ably represented by Chief Eduwe Hato and Chief Edionwe Oliha, Oba Aratokwe, other royal fathers who are here present, members of the clergy, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to warmly welcome all of you to this third edition of our Alaghodaro Summit. Alaghodaro, as you have been told, which means progress in Edo language, is our forum for communicating and reviewing how we have executed our plans and strategies based on the promise which we made to Edo people. It affords us the opportunity to present our scorecard, take feedback from our stakeholders, and set our priorities for the next phase along our clearly articulated vision for Edo State. The overarching objectives of our government are to lay a clear vision for our state, restore accountability through effective governance process, ensure fiscal responsibility and judicious use of public resources, prioritize the provision of public services while creating a very competitive environment for private investment, both local and foreign, to thrive. By executing competently, we make the business of government more predictable and less prone to haphazard or disjointed measures. After 3 years in office, we have established credibility, not only with our civil servants, retirees, contractors, and most counterparties, but we have continued to promote reliability in the flow of services and commercial transactions. This is the basic minimum expectation that we have set for ourselves so that we can build on our fundamental reforms which we embarked upon to transform Edo into a predominantly private sector-driven economy capable of creating jobs, improving on quality of life, and reducing insecurity. Alaghodaro has showcased how we have systematically rolled out and pursued the key thematic pillars on which we promised our transformation of our state. These pillars ensure the foundational platform to anchor the outcomes we seek in the areas of social, economic, and infrastructural development. Mr. Alaghodaro very succinctly described the whole evolution of Alaghodaro from 2017 till date. But let me use this opportunity to just dive deep into some of the specific achievements which our administration has accomplished in the last 3 years. In the area of infrastructural development, given the critical nature of infrastructure in accelerating the pace of development, our policies in infrastructure are aimed at improving the network of urban and rural roads and transportation, access to electricity and water supply, efficiency in the use of land, as well as access to affordable housing. We have built over 150 roads covering more than 200 kilometers in urban and rural communities to facilitate easy movement of goods and people, which have opened up these communities so that businesses can thrive in them. We have passed new laws to regulate water transactions, and amongst many projects, we are completing the reticulation of the Uromi water project and Ugboha water project, which will be an example of how to utilize private-public partnerships, PPPs, to improve access to safe water in the local government areas. We are collaborating with a private investor under the eligible customer policy of NERC to build 55 megawatts Osioma power project, which will guarantee constant electricity supply to government offices and power over 100 kilometers of street lights in Benin City. With Edo Geographical Information System, we have increased the efficiency in land administration and improved public investor confidence through the digitization of land administration, such that from next month, December, we are launching a campaign to issue C of O's in 90 days at a minimum cost of 50,000 naira. In the area of education, so much has been said. And from the video you just watched, we still pride ourselves that even though Edo State has the least number of out-of-school children in Nigeria, we are committed to improving the quality of education for the children of our state. Hence, our efforts in the Edo basic education sector transformation, which we termed Edo Bests. And this program has trained over 10,500 teachers in the most modern teaching techniques, such that over 269,000 school children are now receiving much better quality education than their peers in private schools. We have restored confidence in our public school system as we have moved our educational system from schooling to learning. Our emphasis in Edo now is just not mere schooling, sending children to school, but an emphasis to ensure that the children actually learn while they are in school. We are also emphasizing technical and vocational education. The Government Science and Technical College Benin City, which you saw in the video, has been fully rehabilitated, and it is projected to train about 5,000 students on an annual basis. 20 more of such technical colleges will be built around the state. We've taken advantage of the Central Bank of Nigeria's program on agriculture to develop our own Edo State Agripreneur program, where currently over 10,000 hectares of farmland is being cultivated across the 3 senatorial districts. Each farmer is now assigned a minimum of 5 hectares of land to cultivate crops, for which an off-taker is pre-identified beforehand. We have recently extended the program to cover poultry and livestock. Under the Edo State Oil Palm Program, we have made 120,000 hectares of badly degraded forest land available for oil palm production. And in conjunction with the Central Bank of Nigeria, who will be providing the capital support for this program, we expect to commence cultivation early next year. Edo State now plays host to one local, national, or international cultural, arts, or tourism, or sporting events on a regular basis. Just last month, we had the privilege to host, for the first time in 40 years, the 32nd edition of the National Festival of Arts and Culture, Edo Fest 2019. Edo State was selected to host the National Sports Festival in March next year. Edo State won the hosting rights for the FIFA Under-20 Women's Soccer Competition for next year too. We have completely rebuilt this Dr. Samuel Ogbamudia Stadium and 20 other mini stadia across the state have been built to improve the sporting competitiveness of our youths. In the area of healthcare delivery, our government has led interventions which are aimed at increasing access to efficient and sustainable quality healthcare services. A strategic plan to revamp the healthcare sector commenced with a focus on primary healthcare centers across the state and repositioning the Benin Specialist Hospital. 20 out of the proposed 200 primary healthcare centers, which are well equipped with 24-hour power supply, water, well-stocked pharmacy, and very well-trained healthcare providers, now utilize technology in providing care for our citizens in the rural areas. The Edo State Health Insurance Scheme, the first of its kind in our state, has been launched to assist citizens pay for quality and affordable health care. I believe that the area of job creation and youth employment is one area, even if we say so, we believe we have done very well. Because when I campaigned for this office, I took the unusual risk, which politicians shouldn't do, to specifically promise to create 200,000 jobs within my first 4 years in office. And as of today, we have delivered over 150,000 of those jobs. And the evidence is there, and it's been verified independently. Through our jobs, we have provided skills training, job matching, innovation hubs, production centers, which provide access to jobs in the areas of technology, services, professions, and etc. In the video, we talked about safety and what we as a government are doing about safety. Because the security of lives and property is of utmost importance to us, without which we will not be able to attract the investments we seek. Therefore, our launching Operation Waba Izigan is the outcome of a revamped security architecture which is aimed at modernizing our ability to respond to the current security challenges we face. Even though we're still the safest state in the South-South region of Nigeria, we believe that there's still so much to do in the area of security. A joint task force of Marine and the Navy have been mobilized to enhance the security along our waterways with the establishment of marine bases in Gelegele and Ologbo. The new Edo State Security Trust Fund will be launched during the first quarter of next year to sustain our current efforts in promoting safety. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in the last 3 years, we have been guided and governed by certain key values and tenets, such as accountability, transparency, and probity in the conduct of state matters. This may not have gone down well with a few actors in our society. On balance, we have great testimonies that our efforts to mobilize and sanitize the local government administration of Edo State was the right thing to do, and it has paid off. Today, we can proudly tell you that when we came into office in January 2017, the total revenues collected by all local governments in Edo State was 31,100,000 per month. As at October 2019, last month, the monthly total revenues collected from local governments in Edo State was 205 million naira, representing an increase of 558%. And we are not there yet, because there's still a lot of room for improvement. Based on the lessons which we learned from implementing Edo Best, we are now moving to ensure that our entire civil service is knowledge and technology driven. We are currently reviewing the processes and procedures of the public service, and from January next year, we will embark on an intensive, massive, and sustained training of all public servants in our world-class Chief John Odige Oyegu Public Service Academy. We have successfully collaborated with federal government agencies to provide services for our people. One instance is the upgrade of the Benin Airport. The airport is now able to receive flights both at day and night during hazy weather. And invariably, all these hours of productive business times, which used to be lost by waiting on flights, will be a thing of the past from this Harmattan season. We've talked extensively, and you've heard about our fight against human traffic and irregular migration. And it gives me great pleasure to announce that multiple international government agencies have confirmed a notable drop in the number of illegal migrants coming from Edo State. Our children are now happy to be engaged at home because they see more opportunities unfolding on a daily basis. Ladies and gentlemen, in spite of the very difficult economic and uncertain political environment in which we have operated since the last summit, we are grateful to the Almighty God that we have been able to achieve the modest successes we have recorded. Particularly, we have been able to engender hope in the youth of Edo State by showing them opportunities for jobs and pathways to successful and fulfilling lives. We have been able to curb human trafficking and create sustainable private sector job opportunities. We are moving our children from schooling to learning, and we are giving them employability skills. As we look ahead to the next level, our emphasis will be to build on the strategic infrastructure of the Benin port and the industrial park, which will accelerate production and industrialization. Edo has to be a major agriculture hub. Thus, we will do everything that is required to regain our place as a major grower and processor of value crops, such as oil palm, rubber, and timber, because these will be major inputs for our industrialization. Next year is an election year in Edo State. Despite the anxieties associated with the forthcoming elections, I want to assure our partners and other will-be investors that because of the foundational and fundamental reforms which we have undertaken and which are very popular with our people, the chances of continuity of these policies and programs are very, very high. We therefore encourage you to continue with your various investment programs. As I close, it is appropriate to give thanks to God Almighty for his endless mercies, his guidance and protection of our government and our state. May his boundless blessings continue to remain with us. I want to use this opportunity to express our profound gratitude and thanks to our President, President Muhammadu Buhari, his Vice President, and members of his cabinet who have continued to show unflinching support to us in Edo. I want to express my deep thanks and gratitude to our father, His Royal Majesty, the Omanoba Nedo Ukwa Polopolo, the Oba of Benin, Oba Iwaye II, Oba Atokpei, for his support, for identifying with our programs and his efforts, our efforts to reposition our state. A similar thanks go to all our traditional rulers. Many of them are here with us this morning because they have continued to pray for us and maintain peace and stability in the various local governments in the state. Our religious leaders have been exceptional. 2 days ago, the Christian Association of Nigeria held a special Thanksgiving service to mark our third year in office. And for those of you who were there, you will acknowledge that it was awesome. Finally, I want to thank the members of the Edo State House of Assembly for the enormous amount of work you are doing. It's like a plane flying with one engine, but by the grace of God, we will resolve the issues soon. The various associations and unions, community leaders who have been of immense support to us, I want to express the gratitude of the government and people of Edo State. Our party, the All Progressive Congress, and members of the opposition parties in our state, our friends from all over the world, I want to say thank you very much for helping us rebuild our state and assisting us to take our state to the next level. Thank you very much. God bless Nigeria. God bless Edo State.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Can we keep the applause loud and deep and something that, let us rise and acknowledge our governor. Wake and see. You sleep, the next morning something has happened. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And Edo State is indeed very lucky, like some people say, a technocrat who has seen it all, but also has attracted a lot of investments to this area. We thank you, Your Excellency, Godwin Noragase Obaseki. As you take your seat, can we keep the applause going? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We don't want to waste much of your time anymore, so I'd like to invite our keynote speaker, who has come all the way from Moscow. The keynote presentation is going to be made by Mr. Chris Tan. Mr. Chris Tan is the Managing Director of BFR Institute, LLC, an institute in Moscow, Russia, but he's also the Executive Vice President and partner with Pemando Associates in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. You know how it is said that Nigeria gave Malaysia palm oil. I'm sure it came from Edo State, palm fruit. And they gave us oil. And to see what they've done, we'll be hearing from him. He's back to the home of palm fruit. Mr. Chris Tan, the floor is yours. A round of applause, please, for him.
Thank you very much, Madam Executive. Brothers and sisters, all protocols observed. We are 1 hour behind time. We got to get this thing moving because the theme of our event today is about talking less and doing more. Okay? Now, the event just now involving the blackout triggered me to remind all of us about the wisdom of starting all our events with an appeal to the Supreme Being to help us get where we're going. Because a wise woman reminded me this morning when I moved in, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. Getting to the destination is not about planning. Everyone has plans. The path to the objective is in executing the plan, regardless of all the obstructions and the disruptions and the unplanned events that might happen along the way. For example, just what happened earlier this morning. The fact that I am speaking to you and not my colleague and boss Idris is also a bit of divine intervention. As the Madam MC mentioned, you know, I am here to return the favor that Nigeria gave us in terms of our palm oil economy. And I personally am very connected to your nation because, and especially to the APC administration. I spoke at the very first APC policy dialogue in 2015 at the Transcorp Hilton in Abuja, just right after you won your elections. And I'm so happy that I'm able to continue my contribution. Right? So that's by way of introduction. Now, as I said, let's get going. Why am I here all the way from Moscow? Which direction should I point the clicker, by the way? Here? Okay. Because the governor asked me to remind us what it means to deliver to the next level. After that documentary and after this speech, I was a little bit apprehensive about coming on stage. I said, how do I follow this man? All right? That list of accomplishments that we saw and all the accolades and the acknowledgements by the people of Edo, this is not something I'm accustomed to seeing. How do I follow this great man? And what do we do to take this to the next level? He actually gave us the solution, the answer. He already has it in his mind that in the first term, you have built all this enabling infrastructure. You have created the delivery system in such a way that you are now ready to take yourself to this next phase of development. Now, this is an example of what we call situational leadership. All right? When the journey is beginning in your transformation, the role of the executive leader is paramount in that he, as the captain, has to be very directive in setting the direction for our development. And Mr. Obaseki has done exactly that. But, as I said before, many governments still fail to deliver despite all our good intentions because of these problems. Okay? Yeah, thanks very much, guys. A copy of my presentation is with the organizers, so you guys can just take it later. Most governments around the world fail to deliver because of these problems. Our objectives are not always clear. While we have good sound bites and broad statements of intention, execution requires that everybody else below us be absolutely clear on exactly what we intend. So that when I say I want to buy a cup of coffee, you don't deliver me a latte when I want an Americano. Okay? Because everybody's idea of a cup of coffee is different. Everybody is right and everybody is wrong. The second problem that most governments encounter is the lack of leadership commitment. Now, you certainly don't have this problem here. Not at the stage of kicking off the program. But in order to accomplish your results, that statement of intention needs to be accompanied by a solid commitment to problem solving. Okay? It is one thing to tell us what to do. It is one thing to tell us how you intend for us to proceed. It is completely another thing to be present when I have a problem and I need your help to solve it. Okay? Let's move on. How do you need to operate in order to deliver results? Okay? We believe in Pemandu, and we've demonstrated this in all the countries that we've operated in, that the correct ratio of focus, okay, in this long-term journey is to spend not so much time on the planning and assume that implementation will be smooth, but to operate under the assumption that God is going to play tricks on us, to spend enough time on planning, but to make sure that you put all your resources in monitoring the progress of your plans so that you can take action in response to the signals that come to you from the ground as you implement. Because, ladies and gentlemen, getting results is not about putting things on paper. Getting results is actually writing that paper, yes. Getting the resources to support you, yes. But mostly implementation and getting results is about getting to the ground and actually doing the work. And as you all know, you only get to see the result when you actually try something. Okay? So this requires us to change our mindset in two very different dimensions. First one is in leadership. We all need to work in a different environment where transformational leadership becomes the primary driver. Transformational leadership includes setting very aggressive targets and making yourself publicly accountable. And Mr. Obaseki has done that in buckets, okay? Announcing all these ambitious targets, allowing the media to capture his statements, is giving all his opponents all the ammunition they require to attack him in the next campaign. Now, why does he do this? He does this because he is giving himself no chance of escape. Do or die. This is number one in transformational leadership, and this is the kind of leader that you want. The second thing that Mr. Obaseki has done, very good. I hadn't planned on that. Okay. The last thing about transformational leadership is to accept divine intervention. Okay, as I mentioned earlier in my comments. Plan to succeed. Hope to succeed. Plan to fail. And in so doing, okay, you force yourself to create systems where you constantly monitor your paranoia, whether it is justified. Okay? The worst thing that you can do is to be overconfident in yourself and proceed and walk straight into a bear trap without knowing that it's there. Okay? So how are we going to address these issues later on? We do this by way of this 8-step methodology. Let me talk about what the 8-step methodology really means, okay? It is two categories of activities. One involving the planning phase, which I told you earlier, should only take 10% of your total time investment, and steps 5 to 8 on the implementation. The first step in the 8-step methodology is to get consensus on your strategic priorities. Now is not the time for the members of the administration to be quibbling over whose portfolio is more important than the other person's. Okay? We are now working to deliver a vision to the state. And the vision to the state is higher than your respective departmental ambitions. Okay? The reason you have to spend time, okay, to make sure that you force a consensus among the administration about your key priorities is because of the budget. There is always going to be a finite budget, whether physically, fiscally, human capital, infrastructure. Everybody is going to be competing for the same resource. But everybody needs to agree on which of the projects are most important to ADO, not to your departments. Okay? Once you have accomplished this, then you will be able to do step number 2, which is to go into the labs. Okay? The lab is how countries like Malaysia manage to secure $406 billion in private capital investment in a period of 8 weeks back in 2010. Okay? The lab is something that the governor intends to do here in Edo shortly to enable the private sector and the public sector to come together to agree on their roles in driving the vision to the next level. Okay? Now, why is this important to do in the method that we've done it in other countries? That's because we found that when you have those quid pro quo discussions between the public and private sectors, but in a highly transparent manner, decisions get done most quickly. Okay? There's no need for private negotiations. There's no need for people to secure private meetings with cousins of brothers-in-law of so-and-so of this department, etc., etc. We do these labs to drive the problem solving so that the private investors can shorten their time to money. Okay? I will show you examples of how this has been done in many countries and the results that were achieved. Okay? In Malaysia, as I mentioned earlier, when we did this in 2010, the labs that we conducted involved 250 companies, 500 representatives altogether, and by the end of 8 weeks, we had mobilized $406 billion in private capital investment. Okay? And altogether, those companies committed to create 3.3 million additional jobs. In Oman, we did the same. In Nigeria, in Abuja last year, we conducted the same lab with the Ministry of National Budget and Planning to drive the ERGP. Similarly, over 6 weeks, okay, this pointer is, guys, can you get me to the Nigeria slide, please? I will stop using the clicker. Okay, can we stop here? Make sure it doesn't move. The ERGP lab involved large numbers of companies, and together we mobilized $21 billion in investment. Okay, next slide, please. Let's move over Russia. Let's go to the next one. In Senegal, close by, we did this lab only on the agricultural sector and specifically on 2 industries, cashews and palm. Okay, and just in these 2 sectors, mangoes and cashews, right? And in these 2 sectors, we raised $180 million of private investments in 6 weeks. Let's move on to the next one. Move one more. Now this one is the one that was the most surprising. We just recently completed this project in the tiny kingdom of Lesotho, in Lesotho, okay, where nobody expected any success in raising private investment. We managed to run the lab, and we got together 70 projects altogether involving $1.5 billion in private investment in Lesotho, ladies and gentlemen. This is just a quick illustration of the power of the labs. Now, I expect that many of you in this room are soon to be receiving invitations to come and participate in the labs that will be kicking off here in Edo. I just want to give you this quick advertisement to get you excited and prepared to come and join us. All right? Step number 3 in our methodology is to conduct an open day. Very much like this and what you expect to see when you walk out, when you came into this room, okay? We make sure that the government is committed, okay, by sharing the plans that we make, all right, with the general public so that everybody knows what the government is planning to do and that everybody has the opportunity to give feedback and everybody has the opportunity to offer, criticism, all right? In Malaysia, when we did our open days, thousands of people came, okay, to offer their feedback to the government about what we can do. We did this in Tanzania in 2013 with President Kikwete, in Oman, next please, in Russia, okay. In Nigeria, we did the same in Abuja. Let's move on, okay. But most of all, in the countries that we run the labs in, after the conclusion of the open day, we write these things down. And this is something that I don't need to remind this government to do, because your plans are already well written down. We do this, okay, in order to make the government completely pregnant. As I mentioned earlier in my opening remarks, no government has an obligation to tell the citizens what they intend to do in detail. Many governments hide behind a shroud of secrecy. They use the Official Secrets Act. They use all kinds of legislation to try to give themselves some room to maneuver, just in case we are not able to do what we said we were going to do. But the governments we found who are successful in driving their transformations are those that do the exact opposite. They publish their plans. They make their plans totally visible and transparent to the citizens so that the citizens can do two things. They will hold you accountable, and that will force you and your administration to deliver or lose their votes. And the second thing, it forces you, the new leadership, if new leadership emerges in any part of your administration, it forces the new leadership to maintain some form of continuity of those programs, because these are the very same programs that went through the open day just a few months ago, and the citizens are all excited about it. So if a new leader emerges and attempts to change those plans and slow down our progress, he or she better have a damn good reason why. Okay? This is how we ensure continuity in the program. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the easy part. Steps 1 through 4 is just about planning. It's just about getting your things down in writing. It's about making yourself committed. But no result is going to be delivered unless you go into steps 5 through 8. The first thing to do is to make all your ministers committed by way of giving them clear KPIs and targets. Okay? And these targets must be associated directly with the commitments that you made in the labs. Okay? A lot of people are used to playing the KPI game. When we write our own KPIs and our own targets, they're not always related to what the administration is trying to accomplish. We usually write KPIs to give ourselves a chance of success, but without always taking into consideration what the nation requires. So you need to start doing KPIs. And more importantly, step number 6 is to take action upon those KPIs. And here is where the government of Edo State has again impressed us by its commitment to this new way of doing things. Okay? The only way that a program of this magnitude can be successful is if the governor is somehow able to magically extend his presence to every corner of the state and to be present in every department to solve every single problem that comes along the way. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not Wakanda. Magic does not exist. The governor is one man. He cannot be everywhere. He has other things that he needs to do. So what he needs to do is to establish a delivery unit, such as the one we had in Malaysia, such as the one that the government of Nigeria implemented, such as the one that the government of Oman is doing now. Okay, this actually started in the UK under Tony Blair when he was the Prime Minister. This was the first man that started the delivery unit. Now, Edo should be happy to know that there is now such a thing called the Economic Management Team that is empowered to play exactly this role that the delivery unit is expected to play. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in order for the program to move, you need to get everybody to play together as a team. Okay? Now, the reality of the situation is that all of us in our departments have our own chains of command. I can imagine it took a little bit of work to get the agripreneur program off the ground. Agripreneur is by definition something that belongs under the purview of the Department of Agriculture. But that involved the land grants, and land is under the purview of other agencies, right? Now, in order for these agencies to work together, they need to be facilitated by people who are neutral and who represent the very top levels of government, who will be able to provide direction, okay, and facilitation in the problem solving. So I'm very glad that the government of Edo State has started this process, and we are very happy to give our assistance to get this going. Next one, please. Number 7. Next slide, please. Okay. So problem solving is an example, is one of the primary reasons for existence of the delivery unit. Okay. And this is an example of how problem solving was accomplished in Malaysia. Okay. Where, issues are at first owned by the owner of the initiative, and if they are not resolved, they are taken up to the ministerial level, and if that problem even exceeds the authority of the minister, then it gets escalated to the level of the president, the prime minister, the governor, by way of the delivery unit. Okay, so the delivery unit is a way of increasing the leverage and expanding the presence of the chief executive into the entire administration, so that the whole machine will work. Right? Move on. Let's move on. Next. We're running out of time, so let's move on. I have a lot of slides to cover. So if you do these things well, okay. Next one, please. Okay. Next one. Okay, let's move on. I don't want to talk about this anymore. If you do these things well, okay, you should expect the kinds of results that Malaysia achieved. I'm Malaysian. I'm most competent to speak about the results that we achieved in Malaysia by using this methodology. Okay, between 2010 to 2017, we raised our income levels to almost $10,000 per capita from its original source. Okay, next one, please. More importantly, the rate of private investment, the growth of private investment in our country grew from 5.5% to 10.5% when we implemented this methodology. It doubled. It doubled because the private sector was now in possession of very detailed information about the policies of the government, which areas were going to be promoted by the government, which directors, which ministers were going to be held accountable for delivering all those actions and agreements that were defined in the labs, and so on and so forth. And that confidence that grew from observing this initial success of those pilot companies, okay, resulted in this phenomenon. Next slide, please. Next one. Although we claimed that the initial labs would produce $406 billion in private investment capital, When we measured the data from our investment agencies, as of 2017, the actual investments, realized investments by private investors in our country had hit 540 billion. We exceeded the 10-year target 3 years ahead of schedule. And that was a result of what we call recursive implementation that you get from employing this methodology. What is an example of recursive implementation?
All right, the Edo Summit 2019, also known as Alaghodaro Summit. This is pretty much all we can take on the live broadcast of the summit. We now take you right over to join our studios in Lagos. Thanks for watching.
It's not a
You've been watching a live Channels television event.